Ben Domenech is with me. The anti-Semites and the socialists are very close to taking control of the Democrat Party. Am I right?
They have not just taken control of the Democratic Party, which I think is a dangerous thing. You do not want support for our closest ally in the Middle East to become a monopartisan affair. But I also think that more importantly, they've taken control of the narrative. They've taken control of the cultural narrative that is driving these conversations online. They have taken control via TikTok, via Instagram, via all the different social media entities, and we see it more and more today. Unfortunately, I think that the problem here is that there are some Republicans and some conservatives who are unwilling to stand up and voice opposition to this. I have seen the Democrats be scared of this on their own side for the last several years as they've been dealing with these rising movements coming out of the campus protest movement and the like. But I'm concerned that there are going to be Republicans and conservatives who are unwilling to kind of just stand up and say something that has been Republican orthodoxy stretching back for decades about the way that we view Israel and our relationship with them as being one of the most important that we have around the world. That's something that I think conservatives should be ready and eager to defend because they have the advantage in the argument and they're up against some of, quite frankly, Stuart, I'm not exaggerating this, some of the worst actors in our politics who are openly supportive of terrorism, who joke and believe in things like October 7th and 9/11 as being something that America deserved or that Israel deserved. We should be able to stand up to these people easily.
Shocking. Next one, Ben. Vice President Vance warns that a socialist president could be in our country's future. Listen to this.
Socialism is the alternative if we don't have a pathway to give people a sense that the system is not rigged and that the American dream is attainable. That's like our job. We ran the experiment of offshoring all of our industrial jobs, of becoming a services and finance economy, and allowing Wall Street to come in and buy every asset of modern life and turn it into an investable, line goes up asset. And what has that done? It's created a generation of kids who kind of are attracted to socialism. We have to fix that problem.
That's interesting. Vance says it's up to Republicans to make sure socialism doesn't win. Is that a winning message for the midterms?
Well, I think that the vice president isn't wrong when he's saying that. I do think he's wrong, by the way, in the things he said in that interview about our relationship with Israel and some other points. But I don't think he's wrong when he's saying that. But what I think is kind of an underrated and much, I don't know why it isn't talked about more. When you talk about kids today, when you talk about young people today and the way that they view capitalism versus socialism, they are people who have been indoctrinated by decades of work by the teachers' unions and by the leftist agenda within their schools. And the vast majority of them, I think, are just complying with what they've been told by the teachers, professors, and other people who've been tasked with educating them. It's not something that I think Republicans or conservatives can do overnight politically, because this is something that the left has been working on for so long. They took over those institutions, they captured them, and they captured the minds of America's youth. And proving the truth about capitalism and why it made America great and why it continues to make America great is going to be something that is a task that is not just, I think, something that falls to politicians, but to a lot more people culturally to make that argument and make it open.
I think you're right in your first point. They now control the narrative, and it's going to be very difficult to turn that around completely. Ben Domenech, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it, always. See you soon.
Good to be with you.
Yep.